Well, spoiler season continues for the Heroes of Skyrim expansion, and we're going to do yet another video talking about the cards that were revealed this week, or I think there's one from last week, but I hadn't yet talked about it, so let's just go ahead and get started. So the first card we're going to look at is Duel, Atop of the World. This is a 7-cost action, and it says give a friendly creature +3/+3. It then battles your opponent's most powerful creature. Now, we actually don't know what the battle trigger word or keyword here is fully means, though we suspect it just means that both creatures deal their damage to each other. Whether or not that triggers your attack for the turn, meaning if you battle something, can you also attack? We don't know for sure, but it does seem like it will follow suit with, say, like Magic the Gathering or other similar games where those creatures will do their damage to each other. Now, this card naturally gets compared right out of the gate to Unstoppable Rage. Now, Unstoppable Rage is another 7-cost action in strength, and that makes a creature do its damage to everything in the lane. Now, many people are wondering, basically, like, why would you even print Duel Atop the World when Unstoppable Rage exists? Unstoppable Rage appears to just be better in almost every scenario. However, there are some key differences. Number one, Unstoppable Rage requires the creature to be in the same lane. So, Duel Atop of the World does not. It just battles the most powerful creature your opponent has. So if you already have a creature in play in the field lane, and your opponent plays something in the shadow lane to avoid Unstoppable Rage, for example, you could play Duel to still take out that creature. So it can go cross lane. This also does give the creature a buff before the battle occurs. Unstoppable Rage does not. So with Duel Atop the World, you could take a lesser creature, for example, and then because of the +3/+3, have it battle and kill something and maybe even survive on its own. Where Unstoppable Rage, the creature doesn't take the damage back, but without the buff, they might not have been able to do enough damage to kill a priority target. So there are some differences. Obviously, there's also differences in terms of arena, right? So in arena, this is just another card that you can draft. So it's, it's in the pool. But again, for me, I think that the big difference is just that Unstoppable Rage requires things to be in the same lane. And because everybody knows that and expects that, things happen where people will, say, like, fight for the field lane. And then if you are trying to kill their big priority targets, you might have to either play something in the field lane and force them to trade, or go away from them and play into the shadow lane, and now you're in this like weird race scenario. So this is like the anti-Unstoppable Rage card, if you will, right? Like, this one's almost designed for those scenarios where you're not in the same lane as your opponent. Now, the last thing I want to say about this card in particular, about Duel Atop the World, is that this also doesn't hit your own creatures. Now, that's a pro and a con, so obviously Unstoppable Rage would often be used to cannibalize your own creatures to trigger things like Slay. Child of Hersine, for example. You could play it in a lane where your opponent had no creatures, but if you used Unstoppable Rage to kill 2 or 3 of your own, you could get bonus attacks. But in some instances, when you were using Unstoppable Rage defensively, you would like eat or cannibalize your own creatures, like as a casualty of war. And Duel will not eat your own creatures. It will only target opponents. So that is another difference as well. Whether this sees play over Rage, yet to be seen. There may be other cards with synergy with Duel Atop the World that we've not yet seen. So again, it's always hard to gauge power level when we've seen so little of the set. But this is one of the cards. I think this one came out last week, but I just did not talk about it yet, so I wanted to put it in this video. Let's take a look at the next one. So the next one is Innkeeper Delphine. Now, this card was revealed by Justin Larson. It is a 3-cost 2/3 Breton, and it's an endurance, and it is a unique legend. This says, after you play a dragon or a shout, Innkeeper Delphine changes into Grandmaster Delphine. Now, I'm going to apologize for the potato quality image, but it was the best one I could get for the video. Here is Grandmaster Delphine. So at this point, she becomes a 5/5 that cannot be targeted by enemy dragons or damaged by enemy dragons. Now there's a lot going on with this card that doesn't like immediately jump out. Number one, this is a card that utilizes the change mechanic, so very similar to Little Girl, but this one has a different trigger in that you're playing a dragon or a shout to get this to change. It might not change immediately the next turn, might be a couple of turns down the line, or you could get it to change immediately. So if you had a 1-cost shout, for example, and you played Innkeeper and then your shout, you would get a 4-cost 5/5, right? Now, the other thing I want to mention real quick is that the Grandmaster version does say enemy. Now, that's interesting because we're going to talk about that card next, but there was a card called Wildfire Dragon that I revealed, and that one does damage to all creatures. So if you are playing both of them, the Wildfire Dragon, if played by you, would damage Grandmaster Delphine, but if played by your opponent, would not. So you got to keep an eye out for that. The other thing that jumps out to me is that it says specifically cannot be targeted by dragons. Now we, in the previous video, had talked about Shearpoint Dragon, so that one has a targeted effect. I'm curious to find out or discover if there are other dragons with targeted effects in this set. This would also not take damage from Odiving. Odiving is a dragon, so played by your opponent, it's not going to affect her. Really, this is a card that's mostly about the stats, though. Like, let's be honest, you're playing a 3-cost card. You're hoping to get a 5/5 out of it by playing something else that you would likely want to play anyway. Yeah, it's a unique legend. It's got a cool, flavorful effect, but this one is mostly about the stats. So, moving on, just because, again, natural transition, let's go ahead and talk about Wildfire Dragon. This is a 7-cost 6/6 dragon with Breakthrough. It has a summon effect of do 1 damage to all creatures, and it has Slay +1/+1. This is a card that I revealed, so I'm going to put a link in the description so that you can go check out the YouTube video for that. So my description here is going to be shorter than, say, some of the other ones because I've already talked about it. I encourage you to go watch the video. I will say that the most interesting thing to me is I've been saying frequently throughout the week that this card is part combo piece, part control card, part, fatty with giant stats for the late game, and yet despite having all of those things going for it, despite being that versatile, it still might not be good enough to ultimately see competitive play. When you're talking about creatures and the 7-cost slot in strength, you're naturally going to be compared against Belligerent Giant, who is just a monster in the format. He, as of right now, again, we haven't seen everything from Heroes of Skyrim, but as of right now, he is a top 5 card in terms of power level, in my opinion. So Wildfire Dragon has a lot going for it, but might not make the cut. So I do find that interesting. As I said, make sure if you have not seen the video, click the link in the description. Go check it out. I talk at length. Let's move on to the next card. Just revealed recently. This is a 1-cost Nord, but in intelligence. So we got smart Nords now. This is Studious Greybeard. Studious Greybeard is a 0/4, but has a really cool or unique effect. At the start of your turn, look at the top card of your deck. You may discard it. Now, it's unclear yet whether this occurs before or after your draw. Consensus right now seems to feel like it should occur before you draw, so this is going to serve as kind of like a filtering mechanic, but this also feeds a lot of other synergies, right? So it lets you find your combo pieces faster if you're playing a combo deck. If you're playing any sort of deck that it's going to be utilizing graveyard effects, things that reanimate, etc., this card immediately jumps out because it gets things into your graveyard. It's not very good otherwise, and it has no offensive stats. It doesn't do anything really to advance your board state. It doesn't even have guard, so it's really just for combos. Now, whether or not we have enough graveyard effects for this to be played or this to be worth it, we do not yet know. We've seen a couple that were previewed already, but until we see the entirety of the set, it's really hard to gauge the power level of this card. But there is, however, a card that was also revealed that may synergize with this. This is definitely a like combo-oriented card, and it got a lot of people talking in various ways, and that is Journey to Sovngarde. This is a unique action, so that's interesting. It's a unique action, legendary unique action. It's 7 cost, it's neutral, and it says shuffle all creatures from your discard pile into your deck. Give them +5/+5 and reduce their costs by 5. This card has the potential to be really, really good or outright horrible. Now, if I had to guess, I would swing toward the latter, just based on what's been revealed so far and what we know about the previous cards from the base set. But without seeing the rest of the cards in Heroes of Skyrim, it's really hard to judge. Things that jump out, right? So in the control mirror, right? So like in control games, this recycles a bunch of your cheap guys that you may have used to just kind of help fight for early control of the board back into your deck, and then they all become late game monsters and threats. So in a control versus control mirror, this card could have a lot of value. However, it's going to be a dead card against aggro or mid-range in all likelihood. And even against control, you have to spend 7 magicka taking a turn doing nothing and getting no immediate benefit in any way, shape, or form. Like even when you compare it to say like Hrothgar Forge, where you pay 7, you don't get immediate benefit, but you could from like a prophecy trigger, you could from like a 0 cost creature that you may have been waiting to play in combination with it, so on and so forth. Journey to Sovngarde, however, nothing. Now it is a 7 cost card, so like Thieves Guild Recruit can reduce it, and there are some like fun tricks there. It is an action, so technically Aaron could bounce it back to your hand, which would be cheeky to continue to make things just that much bigger and badder and more hilarious. Particularly of interest is how this combines with the Greybeard that we just previewed before this card, right? So when you play this card, you want things in your graveyard. The Greybeard helps put things in your graveyard. Previous cards as well, such as Palace Conspirator and the Merchant's Camel, also let you put creatures in the graveyard and filter through your deck that much faster to find Journey to Sovngarde, because if your deck is going to be based around this effect, being that it is a unique action, you've got to be able to hunt for it. Those cards would potentially facilitate it. Again, not knowing what else is coming in Heroes of Skyrim, if I had to pick one deck where it could maybe work that exists in the game as of right now, it would be like Altar Assassin. Altar Assassin is a deck that is known for churning through your cards very quickly. It's known for playing a lot of creatures, things like Elusive Schemer and so forth, that let you cycle through your deck. The Altar is pulling stuff out of your deck as well, so when you play a Journey, they're all going to go back in, and then Altar and Schemers and so forth can hopefully still let you churn through your deck and re-find those creatures. So that's interesting to think about, potentially. Whether or not this becomes like a full-on deck archetype, I don't know, but I could see Journey sneaking its way into like an Altar Assassin style deck. So yeah, Journey to Sovngarde. The last card that we're going to talk about is Wordwall. This one's pretty straightforward. It's neutral, it's a 1 cost card, and it's got a 0/4 body and guard. But the important part is the summon here. It says summon, upgrade a shout in your hand. So if you got a level 1 shout, you play Wordwall, it becomes the level 2 version. I would assume that when you then play that card, your other shouts upgrade to the level 3s, but we don't actually know for sure. We know that when you play a shout, your other shouts upgrade, right? But because this one just upgrades a shout in your hand, you haven't played a shout yet, so your other ones may or may not upgrade. I'm kind of on the fence about how that mechanic is going to work, right? But either way, for like a control deck that's going to be shout based, this might end up being very beneficial. Again, it's defensive, it's cheap, it's got guard, you know, throw it down, upgrade a shout. Even with like the agility shout, for example, right? You play this, and then on the following turn, you have a 1-cost Malefic Wreath if it was in your hand. So, is it good enough? Who knows? As I have said a million times throughout this video, it is very, very hard to judge the power level of any of these until we see the rest of the set, the rest of the cards. But yeah, this is something that upgrades shouts. We heard that there would be cards that did it. Now we know that this is at least one of them, so there you have it. That's it. That's what's been released so far. We know that there are more releases coming tomorrow and this weekend. I believe Lateralis is going to do a reveal, Furo is going to do a reveal, so I'm sure that these videos will continue as we see more cards revealed. Let me know what you think. Which cards are you excited about, whether they're from this video or previous videos? I'm kind of curious to see what everyone thinks of the cards that have been showcased thus far. Yeah, as always, thanks for watching, and may you walk on warm sands.